Good day everyone, this is Kevin Wee and you're watching the online versions of my 2022 Tableau Conference presentation, Dashboard Design Tips, Creative Ways to Use Images. Let's get started. First of all, this is the forward-looking statements. Please do not make any purchase decision based on this presentation. Now, allow me to tell you a little bit about myself. I started using Tableau in 2019 in my PhD study. I was doing research on scientific visualization evaluation, and I came across Tableau as a visual analytics tool. I've been using it ever since. I'm currently a senior BI analyst at Discover Financial Services. My job involves two major roles. First of all, I help the internal business partners to tackle their analytics problems using visual analytics. I'm also part of the teaching force at Discover, where we train analysts to become competent Tableau power users. I'm a Tableau Public Ambassador. That means I publish a lot on Tableau Public. I like to push the boundary of the tool to make visits that are both functional and visually pleasing. I also recently developed a series called Tableau Crossover with Figma, where we can use both tools to create analytics dashboards that both look good and function well. I have been presenting in many Tableau user groups, and today I'm going to share a lot of what I present in this series to you so that you can learn how to use Tableau and image files creatively. So that's it. That's about me. I did this when I was in the conference, but you don't have to raise your hand, but ask yourself these questions. Have you used the shape mark in a Tableau workbook? Or have you imported your company's logo to a dashboard? Have you used the show hide button for a container when you're creating a dashboard? If you have done any of these three actions, chances are you have been using image files. So the question is not whether we can use image files or how we can use it. We know how to do them. The real question is, how can we leverage image files to accelerate dashboard production and enhance its functionality? Later, I will be showing you a dashboard that I created for today's presentation. There's several things that I would like to emphasize before I show you the dashboard. First of all, it is built primarily to show the creative use of image files in dashboard design. It's definitely not built for analytics purpose, so don't read too much into the numbers behind it. Also, nothing can replace a good practice in visual analytics. A well-designed dashboard should be easily used by the target users to answer analytics questions, not to bedazzle them. So when you're taking notes and learning from today's presentation, please keep these in mind. Now let's look at the dashboard. So I have put this dashboard on my Tableau Public profile. I understand that it could be very overwhelming to look at a screen right now, but first of all, I would like you to pay attention to the layout in each tab of the dashboard. So this is the overview tab of the dashboard where you can see 5 KPIs. This is the second tab of the dashboard where you can see the breakdown of profit and sales. This is a tab for profit ratio, shipment, and order. And you can see that from view to view, the dashboard looks consistent. The titles always placed in the same place, and the spaces between the charts are all the same. Everything's kept very consistently. Secondly, I'd like you to pay attention to the bottom right of the dashboard. If I hover my mouse over the question mark icon here, you can read the definitions of what does it mean by on time plus. And here, when I hover my mouse over this full scale toggle switch, it prompts me to click the icon to truncate the y-axis. So I'm going to click it. like this. And when I click it, you can see how the y-axis does not start from 0 and does not end at 100% anymore. And when I click on it again, it will zoom back into from 0 to 100%. So that's a second way to use image files. And the third thing that I'd like you to pay attention to the image is this. When I click on the eye icon on the top right part of the dashboard, this is gonna happen. A semi-transparent annotation overlay would occur above the dashboard so that now new users can read through the instruction to see how this dashboard works. And today you're going to learn how to leverage each of these image files to create a dashboard like this one. Now let's go back to the presentation. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to firstly list at least 3 ways to leverage image files in the Tableau dashboard. Secondly, describe the general how-to and benefits of each use case. Note that in this presentation, we're not going to talk in details in how to leverage image files in each of the use case, but you should get the big picture. And thirdly, you should be able to find more open learning resources to leverage image files creatively. And specifically about this point, by the end of the session, you will be given the slide deck, demo dashboard, templates, and more learning resources. So you do not have to screenshot every page of this presentation. Instead, you will be given a link by the end of the presentation so that you can dig more into what I have talked about. Earlier, we showed you this dashboard and we've explained how I've used image files in different part. But how does this dashboard work? What's its composition? So here's actually how it works in layers. First of all, we have a layer for all of the charts, filters, and parameters. That's what I call the data viz components, the meat part of the dashboard. Then at the back of the dashboard, there's actually one background image. And above the data viz components, there are custom buttons. And on top of everything, there's a semi-transparent annotation layer. If you're watching this around lunchtime, you can actually think of this as a burger. The data viz component part being the meat patty, and then it's sandwiched between 2 burger buns, and then the custom icons, just the round shaped things like onions, pickles, and tomatoes. So now let's talk about the bottom bun part, the background image. So what you're seeing here, other than the parts that I white out, they're all actually just one single image. It's just one single image. So how I made it. First of all, you have to create a background image template. You may use any graphic design software that's within your reach or your team's reach. It could be Microsoft PowerPoint, Figma, or Adobe Illustrator. As you can see on the screen, this background image template is just rectangles, text being put in a very organized way. It doesn't even have any color, it's just grayscale. And if you want to go fancier, you can create the navigation panel on the left as shown on the screen. Now you can get a little bit fancier based on your company's color, logo, and branding guide like this. So what you're seeing here on the screen is I changed the color of the template based on my company's branding color, and I slap in my company's logo on the top left. I highlight one of the menu tab because I'm going to use it later in the dashboard. I also added text that will be consistent across different views of the dashboard. You can see that on the download section of the navigation panel and the bottom left of the navigation panel where it's about the designer, the data, and some hashtag. All of these texts won't change from view to view of a dashboard. That's why I keep them in the template. Once you have this edited background image template, you can quickly create the background image for different view of your dashboard by just changing the name of the dashboard and organizations of the white card like this. For example, this is the background image for the overview tab of the dashboard that I've just shown. This is the one for sales and profit. This is the one for profit ratio, shipment, and record orders. Once you have created the background image for each view of your dashboard, you need to export it as a PNG file. And here's my recommendation. You should export the image file with twice as much resolution as your dashboard size. If your dashboard is 1300 times 800, the background image should be exported in 2600 times 1600 pixels. The reason why you need to do this is later when you put the image on the dashboard, Tableau would compress the image. If the size not enlarged at first, the resulting dashboard would be a little bit blurry. So doing so may minimize the image blur. After that, you input the image to a new Tableau dashboard page and you select Fit Image and remove all the paddings around the image. After doing this, the background image should fit the dashboard like a hand in a glove. Then you may load all of the charts, filters, and parameters into the dashboard using floating containers, and you may align them using the element in the background image. For example, the subtitle, I align it with the baseline of the title, and for all of the KPI segment, I align the floating container with the dimension of the white card. Don't forget to adjust the padding surrounding each visual elements so that you give your users some breathing space when they're consuming the dashboard. It's also good to do so for visual consistency. Now, let's talk about the elements in the navigation pane. As far as we know, all of the text in the navigation pane, they are static image. They're not functional button. So how do we make them functional? So here's what you're going to do. You're going to create navigation buttons and download buttons and place them above the text, like what's highlighted on the screen. Then in the title part, you will insert something that we call empty characters. For those who are not familiar with the term, empty characters are invisible Unicode characters that we can place in the title section of the button. Doing so will create an illusion to the users that they're clicking the text on the image that are functional buttons, but actually they're clicking the transparent layer above it. So that's how you create the background image for a dashboard. Now let's talk about the customized buttons of the dashboard. Earlier, I've demonstrated two use cases for buttons. First of all, the one when you hover over the question mark icon, the definitions of online plus shipment occurs as a tooltip. And the second use case is the full scale toggle switch. When a user clicks it, it will change the chart from a full 0 to 100% y-axis to a truncated one showing only the data. So how did I do it? I ain't a graphic designer and I didn't create all of these fancy looking buttons. So what I did was I leveraged the online open source icon libraries that's at my disposal. If you're using PowerPoint, you may go to the Insert and then Icons window, and when you enter a prompt, you may find all of the icons that are freely available to you. And if you're using Figma, you may leverage the Iconify plugin, and it works similar to PowerPoint. When you enter a prompt, you may find the icon that's suitable to your use case. After finding all of those icons that you need, you may download them as PNG files. Then you load all of these icons into your My Tableau repository, specifically in the Shapes custom file. And here are some tips for the people that have not done so. Please try to pick the icons with the same styles for the same dashboard. For example, if you're using round icons, they should all look round. Or you may also edit icons so that their colors fit your company's branding guide. After loading these icons into your Tableau repository, you may open your Tableau workbook and start creating those buttons. I'm not going to tell you how to create the buttons step by step, because by the end of the session, you shall be able to download the dashboard and reverse engineer the buttons. But today, I'm going to tell you the big ideas behind the creation process. First of all, let's talk about the hover icon. This looks fancy, but actually this is just a shape in a single worksheet. It is just a worksheet with one shape mark. And I place the text that I want in the tooltip section. So when users hover their mouse over the button, the tooltip with the definition would occur. So this is an easy use case. Now let's talk about the toggle switch. This is a little bit difficult to create, but here's the trick. The button controls the parameter and the parameter controls the chart. Here's what I did first. First of all, I create this again, one shape mark worksheet that the shape would change based on the parameter. The parameter is called full scale parameter. When the parameter is full, it will look like the buttons turn on, and when the parameter is false, the button will look like it's turned off. After that, using dashboard actions, I made it in a way that when users click on the icon, it would flip it from true to false, and then from false to true. So it became a toggle switch. Then, using the same parameter, we control the chart like this. A transparent band from 0% to 100% would appear on the chart when the parameter is true. And when the parameter is false, that band would disappear. Then I deselect the include 0 option from the y-axis so that when we toggle between showing the full scale and not showing the full scale, it would automatically zooming into the data set when the parameter is false. And then I did something slightly fancy. I colored the area region in white when the parameter is false, so that when we're zooming in, we're not relying on the area under the line chart as an attribute to read the numbers. So that's it. That's how I create a toggle switch for the line chart. So that's it. That's the two use cases for customized buttons, which is also leveraging image files. Now let's talk about the third way of leveraging image files creatively, the semi-transparent annotation overlay. It looks like there's a lot of things going on the screen, but actually the creation process is very similar to the background image. You go back to the graphic design tool at your disposal, then you create a grayscale template that basically have text boxes, rectangles, and connector lines. Then you change the color of the template and the font of the text based on your company's branding guide, like this. Most importantly, you need to reduce the opacity of the outer frame, which is the purple rectangle part. Doing so, later when you overlay above the dashboard, you will be able to see the details underneath. So here's what you're going to do next. You go back to your dashboard, you take a screenshot of the dashboard that you have just created. Then you load that screenshot back to your graphic design tool. You overlay the semi-transparent annotation template that we have just created above the image and make sure that they match perfectly. Then you just move the text box around to start annotate how this dashboard should be used, like this. When you do this, try to put yourself at the shoes of a new analyst and what they need to know about the dashboard in order to use it at its full potential. It will save you so much time in explaining how the dashboard works to the analysts or to the leaderships. Now you may remove the screenshot, add a background, and export this semi-transparent image as a PNG file. Then you load it back to Tableau right above the dashboard. Make sure you adjust the size so that it fits the dashboard perfectly. Now you may select the image and then create a show hide button for this overlay. You may leverage the customized buttons that we have just imported to the Tableau repository file as shown on the screen. So now you have a semi-transparent annotation overlay that users may open and close, and it shows how to best use the dashboard. So now that I have demonstrated how to creatively use image files in 3 major use cases, I'm going to show you a short video in how this actually works in practice. First of all, what I did was loading the background image that I just created. Then I remove all the outer padding to make sure that the background image fit the dashboard perfectly. Then I started to load the charts on the dashboard. I created a lot of floating containers and make sure that they're perfectly aligned with the white cards behind it. Then I just load the bands and line chart. You can see that now that I'm manually editing the height of the KPI so that they all look consistent. Then I'm adjusting the outer padding of each visual elements so that we're giving the dashboard more breathing space. And surprisingly, this is the part that took me the longest, but I think by the end of the day, the product looks good and not cluttered. What I'm doing now is I started to put in the navigation button, and you can see that I quickly duplicate a lot of them. And in the title section, I used the empty characters that I have just mentioned. If you want to learn more about it, feel free to go to emptycharacters.com to copy those characters. I'm doing a similar thing for the download buttons. And now I remove the outer padding of all buttons to maximize the clickable area. What you're seeing here is me using a blank object to cover over the KPI so that no one can touch them. Now I'm inserting the customized buttons. And again, I align them with the existing visual elements on a screen. Then I'm leveraging the dashboard actions to make the toggle switch work. Now I'm loading the semi-transparent annotation layer. I created a show high button, and then I'm using the customized buttons that I have just downloaded from Figma. So that's it. That's how I create a dashboard that I've just shown at the beginning of this session. I understand that a lot of you may find this overwhelming. So here is the learning resources that you may leverage. You may use your phone to scan the QR code on the screen, or go to kevinwee.com to get the presentation slide, the dashboard that I just demoed, which you may download, and more video and online learning resources that you may learn how to do what I've just presented. Specifically, I like to call out several resources that may be useful to you. Some of you may not be familiar with Tableau Public. If you go to tableupublic.com, you will see many visualizations created by the actual users. And visits of the day are the visits that are curated by Tableau staff to highlight what's possible in the tool. And you may also scroll down of the landing page to find a section called Business Dashboards. These are the business dashboards that are not just functional, well-designed, organized, and they're visually good-looking. You may use these as source of inspirations for your business dashboard development. There are also a lot of good DataFam members that have been publishing a lot of very well-designed business dashboards that I like to specifically shout out to. These two members are Chimdi Nosu and Pradeep Kumarji. If you look into their Tableau Public profiles, you will see a lot of very well thought through business dashboard design. I've been finding them very inspiring, and I hope that you follow their work so that you may learn from them as well. So here are the things that you may take away from this presentation. First of all, you may use Tableau on data visualization, but you may also use images on dashboard designs. We have talked about how we created background images using edited templates. We get a lot of customized buttons from freely available icon libraries. We also talk about how to create annotation overlays using edited templates. Leveraging image files has many benefits. We may improve the design consistency between dashboards. We may accelerate the dashboard development process. We may also enhance the functionalities of these dashboards that we created. Last but not least, I would like to encourage you to be creative and critical in using image files on dashboard development. I'm sure that there are way more ways to use image files that I've not presented today, and I encourage you to try them out and share your experience with us. With that, I'd like to thank Tableau and Salesforce for inviting me to present at the Tableau Conference. I'd like to specifically thank Sadale, Chantilly, Lindsay, Autumn, Robert, Ken and Kevin for all of the open learning resources that they've been putting on the internet so that the data fam community may learn. I'd like to thank Discover, Credit Business Intelligence, and the Center of Excellence team for the brainstorming and adopting the practice that I have presented today. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the data fam community, my friends and family for all of the discussions, the rehearsals, and support to make the presentation happen. I hope this presentation helps you to create better Tableau dashboard. Thank you for watching the video, and you may find me in the social media link on the screen.